Hello, everybody. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining in us for today's expert webinar. My name is Aaron, and I'm from SpringPeople. SpringPeople is India's biggest corporate training company. And as a part of our expert webinar series, we are glad and honored to have Dr. Madana Kumar, VP, VP Global Head L&D, UST Global. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type in those questions in the question box. And at the end of the session, Mr. Madana Kumar will answer all your questions. Now over to Mr. Madana Kumar.
Good evening to everyone. Over the next 30 to 40 minutes, I'm going to basically, help you understand how can we build a high performance L&D organization through agility. So first thing is, everyone has got a different way of defining what is high performance when it comes to L&D, right? What does it mean? Does it mean an L&D organization that provides maximum number of trainings, maximum number of hours that is spent, or does it mean when the per employee learning hours are a particular limit? What is it? What does define high performance L&D? So for us, if you can take a look at this slide, you would see that high performance L&D is built upon the various enablers like business acumen, subject matter expertise, business connect, digitization, and of course partnerships and stuff like that, through performance consulting, built over a foundation of a learning culture. But the real performance indicators of an L&D organization needs to be two things, and that is what is there on the right-hand side of your screen, which is primarily the first one needs to be that an L&D organization or the interventions that an L&D organization does need to transform lives, employees' lives through their employee engagement and their development. And through that, it also needs to make a significant and tangible impact on the business, specifically on business areas like revenues, margins, retention, CSAT, branding, and and all that stuff. And beyond that, it needs to even attempt to make what we call as a social impact. So beyond the business impact itself, how does it impact lives of others who are outside the organization and things like that? So these are the three things that I would consider as as the performance indicators of high performance L&D, right? It needs to transform lives of the employees. It needs to have direct and tangible business impact on the business of the organization, and it needs to have some amount of social impact. And that is when I would really call an L&D organization as a high performance L&D organization. Okay, now, of course, having understood that, that is the first thing that I would like all of us to understand. So it is not about how many trainings do we conduct. It is not about what types of trainings do we conduct. It's not about how many hours of training we ask employees to do, etc., etc. It is about transforming lives. It is about making a business impact. It is about having a social impact. Okay, so let us first and foremost understand that very clearly. Now, of course, comes to the question of how can we make this high impact or high performance L&D? And the answer, of course, is through agility. And so let me first try to answer the question, why agility? Why do we need to be agile? What is the need for, for L&D organization to be agile? The fact is that everything around us is changing, as you would probably already know. Many of us would remember watching James Bond movies, right? And we would probably have loved the type of gadget that double oh 007 uses. And but if you look today, many of those gadgets are actually available. Many of those things are really around us. We could potentially buy a spy camera, or look at many other gadgets that are available around us. So it is basically technology impacting our lives is no more science fiction or silver screen stuff. Robos have come out of the silver screens, and it is available in our living rooms today, right? So basically, everything around us is changing, and the whole human mindset is shifting. And today, it will not be an overstatement if we say that we are living through one of the biggest shifts in humankind. Everything it is getting digitized. Things are becoming very, very accessible, and things are changing at a real fast pace. Things like Uber and Airbnb and Amazon Prime and Netflix and things like that have really changed the way we experience things, we do things, right? Banking, or whether it is airline booking or ticket booking, or train ticket booking, or even bus booking, everything has changed. And so we are really going through a huge digital shift around us, and yet we are still living in a digital kindergarten, in the sense that we have not yet seen the amount of real impact that digitization or digital disruption can make. We're still at the beginning stages, right? And why do I say so? I say so because I'm sure many of you might have heard about Thomas Friedman. He is somebody who wrote this book about the Earth being flat, or the world is flat. This was when the Bangalore IT industries were growing, and jobs were moving from different parts of the world to India, and specifically to Bangalore, and and things like that. So he has written a book recently called "Thank You for Being Late," and in this, as you can see in the screen, he says that the technology growth in technology, or technological change, has really overtaken the speed with which human beings can adapt to such change, right? And there was a time when human adaptability was higher. The technology changes were happening at a much slower pace, but today, really, the technological changes have significantly, overtaken the ability for us to adapt. And I'm sure you know this. You experience this because you learn one technology and it becomes obsolete soon. You buy something and a newer version of that gadget is available, probably a couple of weeks later, if not months, right? And so you would see that there is always something new that we don't know about. There's always something new that we haven't learned yet, and then things like that. So so it is what Thomas Friedman claims here in this, and it can be seen in this graph, is really true. It is the technological changes are happening at a much faster pace than what human beings can adapt to. And as this graph indicates, you would see that even though individuals, human beings adapt to technology slower, businesses are even slower than individuals, and of course, public policy, governance systems, laws, and stuff like that, lag behind it much more. The gap between them and the technological change is much larger, right? So so basically what we are seeing is that that the technological changes are becoming a problem for everyone, and we have to continue to continue to look at catching up. There is another thing that is happening, all right, and you would probably the longevity of life itself have changed, and because of that, what happens is that that our careers are no more short careers, and things have changed significantly. There's a book written called The 100-Year Life, as you can see on your screen, written by Linda Grayton and Andrew Scott. And what their study reveal is that because of this, our lives becoming longer, our career becoming longer, the whole concept of life stages have changed, right? Earlier, there used to be a 3-stage model, as you can see in the screen. You take an education, you go for education, you get education, and then you join work, and then you retire. Simply, very simple 3-stage model of career is what it used to be probably a few decades back. But what their study reveal is that today that is no more true. As you can again see in your screen, the life has become a multi-stage life, right? So while studying, we explore. We probably work in an organization while studying, and then we try to transition into some job and stuff like that. Some of us try some self-employment, doing our own stuff, and then again maybe we will go back and do some more studies, and we will do some amount of volunteer work or whatever it is, and then of course ultimately at some point in time we will think about a retirement. So basically, the concept is that the life itself has become pretty complex, and it is no more a simple 3-stage life model that we were used to a few decades ago, but it has become really a multi-stage life. So this so what does this mean? So basically, it also means that the careers are much longer, the average tenure. So when the careers become longer, it is no more again like earlier, that you join one job and stick with one job, right? People don't stay with one job for more than 4.5 to 5 years on an average, right? And what it says is that every skill that is learned becomes completely obsolete in 5 years, right? So that is the type of this thing that we are seeing. So what we are seeing is, there is a lot of disruption that is going around us. Technology is changing, life stages are changing, and and then even the jobs themselves are changing. Right? You will actually realize that a lot of jobs that did not exist in the past are existing today, and similarly, a lot of jobs that existed in the past are not existing today, right? And you would see professions vanishing and things like that. To the extent that the next job that a few of us might be having could as well be to assist some robots, right? So it is possible that that the definition of our jobs itself might change and become something very, very different. So what does this indicate? This basically indicates for our L&D people, for people who build skills for others, it means that the traditional managing or running the L&D function is dead. It just cannot it just cannot succeed. It is impossible for us to look at it from that point of view, right? So that is something that we need to be we need to remember. The traditional L&D no more be relevant, and the need of the hour is for the L&D folks and for us to be completely agile, right? So so I hope that establishes very clearly in your mind about the need for L&D professionals and the L&D profession to be agile, right? Things are changing around us. The digital is disrupting everything that is around us, and we can no more afford to have all types of learnings, all methods of learning, all measurements of learning, all performance indicators for learning, and things like that. So the question, of course, is, all right, I understand that things are changing around me, but and I understand the need for us to be agile. How do we build an agile L&D organization? So that is what I will probably take you through in the next 15 minutes or so that we can have some question and answer after that. So what we have found from my experience is that building an agile organization needs to be intentional. And I'm going to help you to understand what I call as a SEMA process. What is SEMA? SEMA stands basically for, S stands for strategizing. That is basically, every L&D function may need to make sure that they strategize their learning activities. It is not that that we can just go ahead and implement or ask or run training programs as what we used to do earlier. We have to arrive at a strategy which is aligned with the business strategy and the talent strategy. And without that strategy, we will not be able to ever become agile, right? And the second step in the SEMA process is to establish goals, establish processes, establish systems, and establish metrics that will that will measure our success and things like that. So this is again important, including establishing partnerships. We need to be able to establish partnerships so that we know which partner we can work with and things like that. So what are the things? What is it that we want to achieve? How will we do it? What are the systems that we will use? What is the measurements that we will have? All this need to be thought through and then put in place for us to be able to really understand. The third, of course, what gets measured gets improved, and it is important for us to measure how we are doing. And when it comes to measurement, again, L&D folks are known to basically measure things which are easy to measure: number of learning hours, number of training programs, number of people who are trained, number of training programs that are introduced, number of classes that are run, blah blah blah. So those easy easy efficiency and efficiency measures or utilization measures are easy, and many of us just stay with that. It will not do. We have to be able to identify key stakeholders and measure what is relevant for them, measure the business impact, measure how we have transformed lives, measure the social impact that we have generated, right? And talking about stakeholders, for example, in any organization, you will find three types of stakeholders: people who intrinsically support learning and development, people who are neutral, the second category. So the first category is people who intrinsically support. The second category is people who will be neutral and who would say, okay, as long as you don't bother me, go ahead and do what you have to do. And the third category of people are people who would basically consider any L&D investment as a complete waste of money and effort. And you will find them in any organization, right? And it is our responsibility as L&D professionals to identify measurements that will keep all the three types of stakeholders happy. Encourage the cheerleaders. Make sure that the neutral people are turned into supporters, and ensure that the naysayers or the people who are people who are against learning, they don't damage our plans and things like that. So it is the learning measurements. It's you have the Kirkpatrick model, and maybe you have the J.D. Phillips model, or whatever it is. But it is important for us to adapt and adopt those models and beyond, and be able to measure, the right things to do. And the last step is the accelerate step, where the learning organization, I believe, needs to be accelerating the organization and not following the organization. We need to really accelerate the organization to be future ready, be ahead of other parts of the organization, be proactive in identifying the skills that are required, bring in methodologies that are really cutting edge, to be able to implement new methods of training and learning and things like that. So that's the SEMA process for you, right? So I think it needs to start with that, right? And it needs to start with some of these things: strategize, establish, measure, and accelerate. Now, talking about strategy, let's talk about strategy for a moment, right? When we look at how this strategy, what we have found is, if we have to transform the talent of any organization, we have to work on 3 areas. We have to work on engagement, we have to work on the capability, and we have to work on the organizational construct itself, right? Why is it important to work on engagement? Because we are dealing with diverse people. We need to create a bond to learn culture, and we need to make sure that people are connected, right? And on the capability side, we need to build in innovation as a capability. People need to be able to tell their stories, and obviously all of them need to be digitized. And on the organization front, the organization itself needs to be agile, right? And nowadays the organizations are moving into project-based organization from a hierarchical organization. They are becoming flat, right? For example, in Facebook, the organization, the project teams keep moving around. There's no fixed project team based on the projects that are taken up. People keep moving between organizations, and the structure is based on projects, not based on functions like HR, finance, and technology and stuff like that. And of course, organizations are increasingly becoming global, and across the globe. I work in an organization which, for example, has got offices in 20 different countries. And the culture itself is becoming entrepreneurial, right? Decisions are taken quickly and on the fly, sometimes in near coffee machines or water coolers and things like that, right? It becomes very, very, very quick and things like that. So that's how the organization is changing. And so the L&D strategy needs to align with this type of a need, this type of a talent transformation strategy. So what we did in our organization is to come up with what we call as a 4-to-4 strategy, right? And so what does the 4-to-4 strategy mean? So the expected outcome of any learning organization are the same, and I have talked about it before at the beginning itself. It needs to be about client success. It needs to be about the business growth. It needs to be about building a digital culture, and of course, more importantly, it needs to be about engaging a diverse workforce, right? So those are the expected outcomes of learning. In other words, the expected outcome of a learning intervention cannot be number of learning hours or number of training programs and things like that. It needs to be much beyond that. Now, how do we build this, right? So building is what we do is we build it through providing a great experience for the employees. And how do we provide those experience? For example, how can one can the learning be device agnostic, right? Or platform agnostic? Does a person needs to really go into a classroom to do the study? And can a person study just when they need it? I'm working on a project, I have this problem, can I learn quickly using that, at that point in time itself, right? Or rather than push learning, can it be self-driven learning, right? The culture of self-driven learning itself, and why one particular mode of delivery? Why only e-learning, or why only classroom training, or why only webinar? Can we combine all of them and create some sort of multi-modal delivery and most importantly, curation of the content, right? So that's some of the things that will provide a great experience for. And then of course, how do we enable them, right? So enabling them is by the learning organization becoming a center of excellence. We cannot be coordinators or administrators anymore. We got to have thought leadership. We got to be able to say that is we know what we're talking about. We know about the industry. We know about what the employees are working on, and obviously the learning platforms needs to be digitized and provided with that. And the good thing is we don't need to do all of it alone. We can depend on partners to do this. And the last point is on engagement. How do we engage the employees through millennial learnings that are appealing to millennial people, gamification, simulation, stuff like that. And again, learning that has got a purpose of into the client needs. Why do we need to learn this? It is because there is a linkage to whom we serve, right? And innovative ways of learning, and of course linked with competency and analytics. So this is basically what we call as the 4-to-4 strategy of Gamma. What I refer to Gamma here is the L&D function of my organization. So this is the strategy that we have to make sure that that we stay agile and we stay connected with the organizational strategy itself. So based on this strategy, we have 6 focus areas. The first one is user experience. I have already explained that. We deliver learning through really apps, and we have discontinued the traditional LMS systems. We provide experience through apps and through device agnostic, through games, through live streaming, through sharing of peer learnings and stuff like that. So we tend to provide great user experience. And we obviously need to provide cutting edge content. By providing a great experience alone will not help. The content needs to be relevant, the content needs to be good, and things like that. So that is the next thing that we focus on by making sure that we sign up with the best partners who provide the right type of content. And diversity, we got to be able to cater to different genders, different racial origins, different physical abilities, and all that stuff. And the learning needs to be able to enable all of them. And we got to build a great partner ecosystem. As I said, we don't need to do everything ourselves. We do have great partners around us whom we can depend on to provide us with the right content or with the right user experience and stuff like that. Use learning for infusing talent into the organization. And lastly, but definitely not the least, use learning to build a digital culture. Because I always believe that digitization or digital disruption is not so much about about technology adoption. It is not so much about apps or tools or systems and gadgets and things like that. It is about a mindset. It is about the mindset of people. So that is really what we are looking at. And of course, all of them need to be built upon a world-class infrastructure. Basically what we have, I'm just going to give you an example of what we have built. For example, what we are doing now is to build a learning that is accessible, that is collaborative, that is, omni-channel, where people can explore various options, which is personalized. People get personalized recommendations, what is relevant to them, and it is interactive and things like that. And that's really what we are building through our digital learning platform. We are really building out these things so that people can enjoy these types of enhanced learning accessibility. I'm sorry, there is some external noise coming and I can't help it. I'm in in a hotel, and I think there is some construction work going on right above my room. So please bear with that, and hopefully it will go away soon. And I guess the final thing that I wanted to say is this, that that learning organizations really need to accelerate and help organizations become future ready, right? And we have to do what is necessary to make that future ready by providing the right learning sources, right? From where can people learn? Where all can people learn? I mean, today learning is not limited to the learning management system that organizations provide anymore. They are really really beyond. The learning is available all over the place. It's available in blogs, it is available in YouTube, it is available in TEDx, it's available in Google. So there's plenty of places where learning is available. And can L&D organization provide access to various learning sources, not limited by the organizational learning management system, is something that we got to look at. We got to obviously, when you look into the future, we again would see that, are we inculcating and promoting a concept of self-directed learning? That is really important, because we can't continue with push learning, right? People need to feel that it is their choice to learn. We can't really force them to learn. They got to learn by themselves. So so that is the type of culture that we want to learn. And everybody has got a different learning preference. Are we catering to that learning preference? Somebody would prefer to learn by reading, somebody would prefer to learn by watching video, somebody would prefer to learn by doing things, somebody may prefer to learn by observing others and stuff like that. Are we catering to those different preferences? Another key aspect is the rapid learning. There is a book called The First 20 Hours, and this person, Josh Kaufman, says that you can actually learn anything in 20 hours. We don't necessarily need 10,000 hours to build a skill. So, I mean, the basic, we can of course question whether it is 20 hours or 40 hours, but the key is learning is becoming rapid. Nobody has got the time to, spend years and years to learn something. We need to learn things quickly, and we have the capability and ability and resources to do that. And of course, so learning is social. We always learn from each other, and the challenge is how do we build that social learning in the in our current digitized economy and things like that. And of course, it needs to be seamless, right? I need to be able to move from my audio device to my handheld device, to my laptop, to my desktop, and maybe even to my TV. How can I move around and know that, and make sure that I have continuity? I need to be able to learn those things and things like that. So that's really the type of thing that we need to do. And while doing all this, how do we really change the leadership culture of the organization? Does learning and development organization play a part in changing the leadership culture or leadership style? Or does leadership matter when we talk about agility of learning and development organizations? Right? Maxwell said this: everything rises and falls on leadership. So that's the last thing that I want to deal with. What type of leaders do we need to focus on building using L&D? As L&D people, what type of leaders do we need to build, right? And the answer to me is very clearly servant leadership, right? I think I'm sure as a humankind, we have seen sufficient or enough of self-serving leaders who basically serve their own interests. and we cannot have that that going on. We got to be able to shift to a different model of leadership, and that model of leadership that we need to build is servant leadership, where it is actually about others. Robert Greenleaf is known as the father of modern day servant leadership, and he says this: how do we measure that servant leadership, that somebody is a servant leader? And he says the best test is, do those whom we serve or who follow us, do they grow better, bigger, healthier, wiser, healthier, wealthier, more famous than ourselves? Do they become better than ourselves, right? So this is, I think that is what really what matters, that the time where we can boss over others, and and use our power and authority, use our positions to get things done is gone. With things getting digitized and with things becoming equally accessible to everyone, with options being available for people, the only way we can really make teams effective is by being servant leaders and not being self-serving leaders, is by not using our power and authority to get things done, but by putting others first, and and then making sure that they are we have others' interest in mind. And I think this is very important for agility, because if we have to get things done fast, we can't be doing everything ourselves, and we can't be micromanaging, and we got to be able to give a lot more autonomy to our people and let them do things, and and then we need to be able to enable, right? And as Ken Blanchard says, we need to be able to turn the pyramid upside down and let the execution be done by the team members, and the leaders primarily provide vision and not micromanagement and things like that. So I would strongly position the new leadership paradigm of servant leadership as as the thing that we need to adopt as L&D ourselves, and promote in any organization. The time for servant leadership has really come. So that's where I will stop, and I'll turn it back to Aaron and see how we want to take this forward.
Thank you, sir. So I think we can open for questions now.
Okay. All right.
And yeah, and we request all the participants, if you have any questions, please type in the question box, and Mr. Madana will be able to answer you on live. Thanks.
All right, Pinak is asking, is there a simple, cost-effective way of providing ROI on training that you practice? Yeah, it is. There cannot be. I mean, first and foremost, there cannot be a cost associated with measuring the ROI itself. The ROI measurement needs to be, by in itself cost effective or no cost. The thing that we need to do is, I would say the simple thing that we can do is to ask this question before we design a training program itself. What is the intended impact of this program, right? And then we will be able to find that way, and then we do it through comparisons. We do it through finding out, whether there is a, whether we can assign some amount of, linkage between the effort and things like that. For example, we have done measurements like, we do an assignment after a particular training, where we go and ask people to identify additional revenue opportunities that they have identified because of the skills they have acquired during a particular period of training. And then after 6 months, we go back and ask them, hey, look, what is how much of those how many of those ideas or opportunities have been converted into actual opportunities of cash and bank and things like that. So I think each organization needs to do it by itself in a different way. But the key is to ask that question intentionally and right at the beginning of the beginning of the training design itself. So that is one thing. The second question is, how do you suggest to bring innovation in evaluating talent in line with the various new approaches in training delivery? Use assessment tools. I'm sure there are multiple assessment tools available out there, in the market, or you can develop your own assessment tools. I think most of the e-learning platforms nowadays come with assessment tools, and you can really use that. And nowadays, but when you go for an assessment tool, make sure that you use something that is adaptive. Don't use something that is fixed. In other words, use a tool that will change based on the skill level of the person. So there are the beauty is today, artificial intelligence provides assessment tools with that ability to be adaptive based on your skill level. It will actually modify your questions and ask you difficult questions or less difficult questions and things like that. So that is really what I would think we can do to do that evaluation. Okay, so yeah, I hope I answered Kaushik's both questions, right? Akhil, for some people, salary matters more than L&D, culture, and talent development. How to guide them and change their thought in the right way? Akhil, salary always matters. It matters to me. It matters to you, right? I'm sure none of us really go to office thinking I'm going to do charity work. So salary always matters, and we are not going to obviously compete. So I think one of the things that L&D professionals need to know is that we cannot compete with the hard matters like salary or amenities or benefits that some organizations provide. For example, Google provides free food, or Intel provides a swimming pool in their offices and stuff like that. So those are different things, but what I think we need to do is to try and provide them with the what I call as a pull factor. Give them a reason to come back to learning. Help them to realize that skill development is important, and without skill development, they might as well perish. But more importantly, create a platform that they will feel excited to come to. That is really where what I talked about, the engagement and experience comes in. So create learning programs that will mean something to them, provide a what's in it for me answer to them, and make it exciting. And and that is what we can really do. We obviously can't compete with salary. Elena, okay, thank you. With the digital transformation, you mentioned having servant leaders. How can digital era, which in reality can equate to wealth and fame, impact identifying leaders that are not only after on growing and enriching themselves, but their people, employees? Yeah. So Elena, I think the stuff is that I really don't think that we should generalize and say that digital era is equated to wealth and fame. But going beyond that, my point will always be, what is digital for us, or what is technology for us? So I always tell my team members and others with a gadget. Never fall in love with an app. Always ask the question, what problem is it going to solve, right? And fall in love with the problem, so that you will then use the technology, use that gadget, use that digitization to solve a human problem. If we are able to use technology to resolve drinking water issues, if we are able to resolve technology to make transport more affordable, right, or flying more affordable, or to make or to avoid wastage of food, or stuff like that. Ask and find out how can technology or digitization be used for for solving problems that we face, for the world is facing, right? And if you really ask that and enable others to do that, I think that way we can turn around the impulse of using digitization to make money, right? But let us again remember, greedy people will always be there in the world, but let's not worry about them. Let us try to make a difference by ourselves, picking up a technology and trying to use it for for the benefit of others. And that way, when we use it for others, that is really serving mentality. And maybe in spite of there being a lot of greedy people out there, we can be the agents of change there. Okay, Alina? QK3450, in the current scenario, is there anything more effective than the Kirkpatrick model? See, Kirkpatrick model or J.D. Phillips model or whatever it is, they basically provide you with just the basic framework. If you just depend on them alone, it will not work. You will need to adopt, I think, and that needs to be done by organizations themselves. I think there is no particular model. These are the two basic models that on which every measurement is built. But adapt it to your specific needs, and then go beyond it. That's what I would suggest you do. Murali, I'm from a service-based company. We have provided niche skill training around 100 people. After completing the training, more than 75% of them left the company. Your thoughts on this? Yeah, very good. Murali, this is something that, sometimes, most of the time get asked. So this is my counter question to that. Things can be worse. And what could be worse, Murali, is that you don't train and all this 75% of the people stay in the company. Think about that situation, where you have unskilled people staying in the company. All right. So my the thing is, yeah, sure, let it be. And at least you would have contributed to the growth of that technology elsewhere. But what you have done is to avoid the risk of having those 75 unskilled people stay in your company. Okay, and that would have been worse. So it is worth it. Really worth it. Vinod Kumar. Most of them don't have any budget specifically for L&D. Most of the workforce are expatriates. They feel that only Saudis are given training how to approach the management to convince them to have regular L&D programs irrespective of nationality, and make them understand that training is common for all and everyone deserves it. So yeah, it's sensitive situation, Vinod. I understand it is not easy. The way I always approach, for any budget discussion is never to go and talk to them about any other issue, because nobody is going to really invest money just because because of nationality or because of everyone needs to be treated equally, etc., etc. That might not always cut the ice. What might cut the ice is if someone is able to help them to realize what benefit or what business impact, how could their revenues improve, how could their profitability improve if we are able to train everyone, if we are able to improve or increase the training coverage and things like that. So I would never approach it from an aspect of diversity or nationality, because that might be pushed back. But I would probably go and approach them by looking at what benefit they can get if they provide training for everybody instead of only for a selected group of people. How could their profit grow? How could their business grow, and things like that. So my suggestion would be to try and see articulate it from a business impact point of view. Pinak, do you think mentor plays a vital role in developing leadership talent rather than attending standard leadership development programs, as leadership is such a personality specific thing? It is both. Mentors do play a vital role, and I'm a firm believer and a strong advocate of mentoring. We do need to do that, but at the same time, there is value in leadership development programs. What I don't agree with, Pinak, is your use of standard leadership development programs. The standard leadership development programs will do nothing. Okay, it is a waste of time. So what we need to do is to have customized leadership development programs. Okay, that is what will make the difference. So customize it to your needs, customize it to the needs of the people, and then customize it to contextualize it to this thing. So I never go out and buy a quote unquote standard leadership development program from somewhere, right? Or if at all, very rarely. It is most of the time the leadership development programs need to be customized and and contextualized to your organization, and then obviously augment it with mentoring and things like that. So, Akhil, what are the effective ways to disseminate company core values and culture building on ground level and making its presence more visible? First and foremost, Akhil, is by demonstration by leaders, right? Just by making posters and plastering it on the walls is not going to help in disseminating company core values. It needs to be practiced, and it needs to be practiced by leaders first. If leaders practice it, and then people will start seeing, and then if they see a poster, they will probably link, hey, this is a value I saw my manager or my senior leader practicing this, so really there must be something in it, So first and foremost is that that practice by leaders, and then of course follow it up with sessions or awareness sessions and things like that, right? So that is probably the best way to disseminate values. Elena, second question. Training is one of the pillars of capability building, but leadership buy-in is key. Do you think that the message from the top can get employees to get trained? Are there other ways apart from executive approval which help deploying training for a company? Executive approval, executive support is a must. There's no doubt about it, Elena. It is a must. What I'm trying to say is that it is our L&D professionals' responsibility to secure that buy-in. And how do we get that buy-in? Is again by focusing on the business impact and the social impact that our learning programs can do. What mistakes most of the time the L&D professionals do is to go and ask for money just because saying that, hey, look, we need to train people, so many people, so I need so much money, right? So that is when the problem really comes in. But if you're able to turn it around and say that, look, this is one of the business problems, and this particular skill building or training program can solve that. If you change around that conversation from a business angle, things will start changing. And yes, the leadership messages from the top is important, and it does get employees into the training programs. But more important than that is it must be relevant to the employee. The employee must feel that yes, it is relevant to me. So just the message alone will not help. We have to equally match it by making the programs, the content of the programs relevant, and the experience itself pleasurable for them so that they will come back to it. Ashwini, my organization L&D is still at an infant stage. Any suggestions for establishing L&D to make people understand the importance of learning? I think I have answered it, which I keep repeating to say. L&D will become successful if L&D's focus turns away from running training programs into making business impact and social impact and creating an employee experience. So if you reimagine L&D not as a training organization, not something that we need to run training programs, but an organization that will contribute to business, that will contribute to society, that will contribute to employee engagement. So that if you make that as your beginning point, you would have made a big, great start. Okay, I think we have covered. I'm not able to, okay. All right. Pinak, there is, again, how do you customize a leadership development program? Obviously by understanding what is their needs, right? And what is it? So it is basically a needs identification activity, trying to understand, what are their business goals and what are the skills, and how can we build those skills and things like that. It's a I will not be able to give a quick one-sentence answer to that. It is obviously a whole structure, and the whole thing that I talked about, strategizing. The SEMA process itself is that, find out a strategy, establish a process by which you will understand the needs, engage with business, understand where the business wants to go, understand the business priority and then strategy, and find out what are the gaps that needs to be filled, and then find out what is the best way to fill that gaps, and then build a program that will obviously be interesting, and and then things like that. So it is it's an art in itself, right? I think we will take this as the last one, Kaushik. There are those complex situations which act as deterrents to measure the efficacy of a particular training session. What do you recommend as a few most effective measures? Yeah, so I think I gave you some examples. What we have. I mean, I can just give you some straight examples. We have measured direct impact on revenues. We have measured, new revenue opportunities that has come up. We have measured, attrition rates, change in attrition rates because of, training. We have measured we have measured the employee engagement scores, change in employee engagement scores. We have measured the change in performance levels because of, training. We have measured, how we have been able to replace hiring with training, and thereby how we have, replacement cost, how we have avoided replacement cost, and and then things like that. So again, you got to look at, there is no single one. You'll have to look at the training program and then find out what is the most likely business area that can be impacted by this training, and hence, we have measured, for example, opportunities presented to clients, new solutions presented to clients, right? So many things. So we'll have to find out for each, and it cannot be the same for all the trainings. It'll have to be different for each training. Okay, Aaron, I think we are right at the top of the hour, and I think we have run out of question. Thank you everyone for the amount of questions that has come in, and I hope it has been useful to you. Thank you very much. Thank you.